Congressman.
Thank you very much. And I appreciate the conversation already. Just picking up on a talent conversation, I'd be very interested to hear going forward how we can drill down on that talent and start tapping into kids at the junior high and high school level, getting them more interested in this topic, because as you are well aware, the workforce shortage in cybersecurity is tremendous, and it's going to be a real problem going forward. And I think what you're doing at the college level is great. Getting kids at the younger levels to get interested in it is going to be, I think, the next important step that we need to take. And Governor, I'm going to thank you for hosting that infrastructure summit we had a few months back. And to think that we could actually have a bipartisan discussion with a group of governors, senators, and members of Congress, and then turn around and maybe have that guts of that infrastructure package be what the Senate's working on, and maybe what's going to come to fruition, would be pretty exciting. And I applaud you for having that conference and for having a discussion about the cyber component of infrastructure, because it's very, very important going forward. And our country sorely needs an infrastructure package. So I hope that sanity prevails and we get something passed. So I want to talk just about a few things from my position as ranking member of Homeland Security. We'll talk about the preeminent threat, and I think you all know what that is, cybersecurity. How to bolster CISA within the Department of Homeland Security, and talk for a few minutes about the systemically important critical infrastructure component, because that seems to be where the bulk of the massive attacks are coming. So as you all know, cybersecurity is a preeminent threat to our country right now, and corporations, state and local governments must recognize that, and I'm not sure they do. And that they no longer hope they can no longer hope that they're not the next victim, I guess is the best way to put it. But rather, they need to assume they're going to be the next victim and prepare accordingly. In 2020, we witnessed one of the worst years on record for ransomware attacks, and it could not have come at a more tenuous time for our nation. The problem has only accelerated through the first half of 2021. If nothing else, the attacks this year, ranging from Colonial Pipeline to JBS, Kaseya, and countless others, remind us that no one is immune from our cyber adversaries. I'm very pleased to see that President Biden has chosen 3 true cybersecurity professionals that have a wealth of private and federal sector experience among them. And I'm confident that Jen Easterly, Ann Newberger, and Chris Inglis have the experience. And as you obviously can tell from hearing Ms. Newberger this morning, she knows her stuff. I think all 3 of them do, and that's really important given the current situation. I think they have the talent, they have the drive to address this issue, as well as many others that face our nation in this space. And of course, I'm heartened with the steady hand of General Nakasone in his key role of running Cyber Command across the past 2 decades. That's past 2 administrations, excuse me. That's critically important. It's something I want to talk a little bit more about in a moment. As for CISA, I've continued to say it's vital we give CISA the resources and authorities to meet this moment. The White House also bears responsibility to ensure CISA is given the required stature within the agency and within the interagency. CISA is the nation's lead civilian federal cybersecurity agency with responsibility for coordinating the protection of the nation's critical infrastructure. Cyber incidents are very rarely sector specific and require technical resources. Therefore, it makes more sense for these capabilities to be centralized within CISA. CISA is that quarterback agency for the .gov critical infrastructure community and state and local governments that can quickly connect the dots when a malicious cyber campaign spans multiple sectors, then share that information across a broader cybersecurity ecosystem. Recent discussions that would further silo our nation's cybersecurity efforts would inhibit the government's ability to rapidly share information that impacts multiple sectors. CISA must have increased visibility to protect the broader critical infrastructure community against cyber threats. And it must ensure that sharing and promotion of best practices is truly a bi-directional endeavor. When this happens, I think everybody wins. In addition to increased visibility, we also need to truly understand what is critical, because if everything is critical, nothing is. Our digital world is increasingly interdependent on a web of hardware, software, and services, and we need to understand the single points of failure and layers of systemic risk. Over the past several months, I've been leading a legislative initiative to codify a transparent and stakeholder-involved process at CISA to identify systemically important critical infrastructure, to identify those entities whose disruption could have an outsized impact on our national or economic security. For example, Colonial Pipeline. These entities naturally demand deeper cyber risk management integration with the federal government. But to date, there's been no codified process to require stakeholder input and a risk-based process to identify them. I ultimately see this legislative effort as complementary, but not competing with incident reporting legislative efforts working through the process that I'm also involved in. And lastly, I'm going to talk for a moment about ransomware. I really applaud the administration's interagency collaboration to recently release StopRansomware.gov. I think it's a fantastic initiative. And we need to keep the pedal to the metal. And I see several buckets where we can drive consensus in the path forward, and in no particular order of importance. But first and foremost, we got to flip the paradigm on ransom payments. We should encourage those that are attacked to only in the rarest of circumstances to pay ransom and not let it be the norm like it is now. We need to hold bad actors accountable, and that's why I'm excited to interact with General Nakasone. We need to resource CISO properly. It's nowhere near resourced enough. I think we need to identify the systemically important critical infrastructure, like I just said, from key software providers to key pipelines. There are clearly some entities that play an outsized role in our economic and national security, and we need to better identify them and work more closely with them. We need to invest on the front end, and perhaps this is the biggest concern I have. The Colonial Pipeline executives came before Congress after the attack to tell us all the things they're doing to harden their systems now. My feeling is they should have done it on the front end. And that's why if there is systemically important critical infrastructure, there can be more pressure for them to do so. Companies must be constantly assessing risk and hardening systems. Too often we hear about systems being hardened after an incident. The National Security Memorandum on Improving Cybersecurity for Critical Infrastructure Control Systems and the associated performance metrics with this memorandum that the administration just released should be a helpful galvanizing force on this front. C-suite awareness. We need to demand best practices to stop unforced errors within companies. Executives at every company should consider themselves to be cybersecurity leaders or to have someone in the C-suite with them who indeed knows their stuff with respect to cybersecurity, even if they don't have a technical background. The culture of security must start at the top for every company. And a push for cryptocurrency transparency, I think, is very important. Disrupting the business model is one of the keys to eradicating ransomware. I was a federal organized crime prosecutor for 20 years. The hardest thing for the bad guys to do would be to spend the money from their criminal enterprises. We need to have that same thought process with respect to cryptocurrency. And I applaud what the FBI was able to do and trace back some of the Colonial Pipeline money. And lastly, I'll just tell you a personal experience I had recently. We tried doing this, and we're going to do this model across the country. I had a cybersecurity roundtable back in Syracuse, New York. We invited members from different government structures and business communities. We invited quite a few people. The room was packed beyond capacity. And many of them are already working with CISA. And the ones that weren't, CISA gave a presentation, signed up for CISA's free assistance afterwards. We need to be doing those types of things from an awareness level across the country. Cybersecurity is the greatest threat to our national security. And if we don't have an all hands on deck approach right now, I think it's going to be nothing but problems. So I'll close how I began, and that is thanking the governor for his leadership on this and so many other things. And infrastructure is going to be a part of it. Cybersecurity is going to be a part of it. And you have some heavy hitters at this today. I'm not one of them, but some of them here. And I appreciate them in the collaborative work. And I haven't met you in person yet, but we got to grab a cup of coffee soon because I want to learn from you, and I want to make sure we have a good collaborative working relationship. With that, I yield back. Thank you.